My name is Scott Challoner and you are listening to the Leaders Council podcast for the people who run the country and the people who keep the country running. Now, as regular listeners of our programme will know very well, part of our mission here at the Leaders Council is to bring you a variety of distinct perspectives on leadership, and to this end I'm delighted to say that we're joined on today's show by Olga Murray. Olga is the director and founder of Private Goodness, a UK-based corporate responsibility, ESG and ethics consultancy. Olga, a very warm welcome to yourself and thanks for joining us on the show. It's a real pleasure having you with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure, Olga, and just to kind of make a start for the listeners that might not be familiar with you and your organisation, do tell us just that little bit more about why you started Private Goodness and what it actually is that the organisation seeks to do.
About 4.5 years ago, I started Private Goodness, my own company, because I felt really optimistic about the power of companies to make a difference, to be active in solving the world's problems rather than just reactive. So in effect, I use the power of corporate responsibility, ESG, and ethics to help business people become better leaders, and I feel like it's a real privilege. So I'm really lucky to be able to do something I'm really passionate about, which is empowering people, and I love my work because I learn every day. So for my training, for example, I write bespoke courses, so whether it's about CSR or ethics or sustainability. And this month I had someone from the transport sector in Newcastle, and I haven't worked in a particular sector in that area before, so I could do a lot of research. And then I had somebody who worked in a property management company in Sydney, Australia. So I had to do a lot of research for that as well, and I learned a lot from them about how they operate, what their challenges are, what their ambitions are. So it's always very interesting. And for my consultancy, I bring in a lot of experts. So I don't know everything. My subject's very, very broad, but I build a team. I work with academics. So if I have a particular question, I can find somebody who's got a PhD in that area and ask them. And I also work with a lot of fellow practitioners. So if I do a piece of work measuring carbon emissions for an event, I do that, but then I'll have another person review it, and actually any good sustainability professional would do that. But it means that I work with my peers, and I find that the sustainability sector is very collaborative rather than competitive because we all have the same goals, so it's a really lovely area to work in.
Yeah, it certainly seems the case. Sort of feeling that you're purpose driven and are really looking to make a difference, and it seems that there's a lot of fulfilment to be gained from that. And sustainability and climate change, as we've sort of touched on just now, they're very, very important issues that are relevant to all of us, but they're especially relevant to businesses in the current climate, aren't they? And why do you think that is?
Well, businesses have a very interesting and complicated relationship with climate. So they suffer because of climate change, because when we have climate change events like floods and wildfires, they disrupt communities, they disrupt economies, right? So businesses suffer. But businesses can also be kind of baddies of this piece. So the companies can produce a lot of emissions that cause climate change or contribute to climate change. Although bigger companies, mainly it's every company that can do better. And businesses can be our saviors. So when they take action, they can find innovative solutions to save the planet. And when they choose to do the latter, they're greatly rewarded by the investors and the teams. So it's not very straightforward, is it, with our relationship. But I'll go to each point just to explain what I mean. So when I say that businesses suffer, I mean you know this. I think climate change is so visible now, probably more visible than ever. You know about how we're recording this in the end of October, and it's really warm. So I think that people are becoming more aware of it. But I also see in the news every day about floods and fires and everything, and that has an effect on business because it disrupts the everyday running of things. And businesses, and actually that don't exist in isolation, and that's the main point of this, of responsibility and everything. What happens in the planet, what happens in the world affects us. But business specifically is affected because of the heat. International labor organizations predict that productivity, just in productivity losses alone, we will lose about 80 million full-time jobs. So when it's too hot to work, or when because it's too hot, malaria is coming back to the area where it used to be, that all has a very negative effect. So that's where businesses are kind of victims as the rest of us. But where they have the perpetrators is where the business-driven activity drives the climate change. So that it's the top companies, the top 100 companies are responsible for the 2/3 of the emissions, but it's every single one can do better. Positive thing about it, and I really like to talk about a positive that businesses can contribute to innovation and solutions to mitigating climate change, and through active leadership they can actually save the planet and save lives. And last is how they're rewarded for it. People say that more than 70% of all job seekers want to work for companies that are environmentally and socially responsible, and the numbers are much higher when we talk about millennials and the younger generation. So if you take action, it costs money, but you get rewards that people want to work for you and with you, and investors would want to invest with you. In fact, 83% of investors say that in the next 12 months they'll invest or divest based on social responsibility and environmental factors. So there are many reasons for businesses to consider this issue in more detail.
There are, aren't there? Because as you said there, I mean, investors' priorities are changing, consumer spending habits are changing. When we're seeing things like the Great Resignation in the aftermath of COVID, people are becoming far more aligned with purpose, aren't they? And if a business isn't moving with the times and showing that, you know, corporate social responsibility, ESG, if these aren't at the heart of what they're doing, they're going to lose out, aren't they? Because people's priorities are beginning to really, really change. And obviously, not every single business out there is in a position where it can invest in, you know, the innovations of the future to sort of trap carbon and help save the planet. So for those businesses out there that are sort of SMEs that are sort of looking to just survive and thrive, let's say, what can they realistically do to address climate change? Because obviously they might not have the same sort of financial clout as governments or large companies, but there is still always something that they can do, isn't there?
There is something that everyone can do and every business can do. And one thing to say is that yes, investing in innovation costs money, but there are some things like actually the greener business is a leaner business. So, for example, if you make a product and you use to package your product in a lot of plastic and a lot of unnecessary, materials, and then you reduce that, you have to pay less for packaging. So, or if you are a professional services company and you used to send people, like a small law firm, and you used to send people to travel to meetings or like commute long way, and then you introduce more working from home, or you're very strict on business travel, so you say nobody flies to any meetings, you save money as well. So it is a way to it can be very efficient. The first thing I'll start with for any business is to research climate emergency, because what all business leaders need, I believe, is to have very strong knowledge in the area, to understand what's going on and understand how it's relevant to your business. And there are lots and lots of resources online about how sustainability is such a nice area. It's because people want to share free resources on this, because they want you to take action. So you can find out a lot just by looking online, and then try to understand where does your business fit in there. So way to do it is to measure and analyze greenhouse emissions. Consultants can help you, and I think that if you're a large company, you need your own in-house teams, and SMEs can bring consultants in. But small businesses who don't have any money for this sort of thing can do it themselves. And there are free guides on the internet. For example, carbonfootprint.com is an excellent site. And you can enter some information, and they will give you the results as your that you can start with, and then you can take some actions and see how that changes in next year. And you can set realistic targets after you know what's going on. And science-based target initiative is the best place to start, because they're connected to science. But again, understand the research, and I think that obviously we're talking about climate risks, but there are wider risks that come with not fully understanding your entire product chain, right? So if Yeah, and if you review it, so if you look at, so this is about recycling. So you have a product, and then people say, well, this is how it can be recycled. But you need to look at everything in the product, how the raw materials are sourced, how they're produced, how they're packaged, what happened next. So every single step. And then you can see where you can make changes and where you can save money or where you need to invest a bit of money to make it more efficient. So it's good for many, many reasons. Because if you know this, you'll be more secure in your future. If it's a service, and I used to work in the legal sector, and some lawyers can say, well, what's got to do with us? We don't make any products. But if you work in an office, there's heating, there's cooling, there's electricity, can be renewable, there's travel. But one interesting thing that's about all businesses, so we all have clients, right? And we all have supply chains, however small we are. And who do we work with? Do people who we work with help the environment, or are they? So with supply chains, you can make the difference with money you're going to spend anyway. So if you're going to buy, I don't know, whatever it is you need, if you do a bit of research and see if you can buy used services that are sustainable, then you can help out this way, and then you can write policies to make it more part of an everyday decision.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you mentioned something incredibly important here as well, in that you need to consider everything in sort of the life cycle of a product and the way that you sort of run your business if you are to become a fundamentally green company. And I think there are some businesses out there that fall into something called the greenwashing trap, don't they? Where, you know, they market a product or the work that they're doing as being sort of green and environmentally friendly, carbon neutral even. But when you look deeper into things, all of a sudden you realise that, actually maybe it's not as green as it makes out on the surface. And I suppose some business leaders that, you know, do care about sustainability and want their businesses to become more sustainable, they are a bit concerned, aren't they, that if they start talking about climate change and they want to try and sort of make that transition, they might be accused of greenwashing themselves. And are there any sort of hints and tips as to how businesses can sort of really look deeper and sort of try and avoid sort of the greenwashing trap?
Yeah, and actually, it's a good question. You asked me if everyone asks me that, but it's about being proportionate, right? So if the mission of your company is polluting, then planting some trees or setting some ambiguous target that they're never gonna meet isn't gonna fool anyone. So it's good, but it's got to be proportionate. And you know, it's got to be. I think any claim should be really humble and triple check. So I said earlier on about how whenever I do something, I always have any kind of carbon measurement. I have other professionals to check it and to verify it. And I think that for businesses, it's very important to get somebody in, whether they're peers or somebody, to have a look at it to see if it makes sense, because it's been a global problem. It's very easy to say things that are very too ambitious. So I think that sometimes people mean well, and they just we talk about saving the planet, so they can get away with it and make claims that are not so wholly accurate. So I would just be humble. And you know, in ancient Greece, there is a Greek myth. There is a concept called hubris, where if there's humans who decide that they're greater than the gods will always punish them. They always go, no, you're not. And we discuss this in my classes as well. So if you try to say I'm the greatest, we are the greenest, people will always point out that you're not. But if you are more humble and you say we are trying to do this, and this is what we've done, this is what we want, people want you to succeed by large, and you'll be all right. But having said that, there will always be criticism of anybody who tries to do something good. So remember Captain Tom in the pandemic, who walked around the garden to save money for the NHS?
Yeah, I do recall his story, absolutely.
Yeah, he was a national hero at the time, and he still got death threats online. There were still lots of people criticizing this veteran who is raising money for the NHS. So there'll always be someone out there who tries, instead of doing something to help, will put other people down. So there are people online who hate Lizzo, for example. So there is something about, as long as you as long as you're honest, as long as you're humble, you need to be brave, but you need to accept that whenever you want to be a leader and whenever you want to influence real change, just some people won't go with you, and that's okay.
Yeah, I guess it's just accepting, isn't it, that there's always going to be some form of criticism somewhere, isn't there? And you've just got to try and shoulder that and show some humility as best you can to not invite as much of that on, and also just respond to it in the right way as well, and just not take it as a terminal thing and use it to just continue to improve and continue to get better in pursuit of what you feel your purpose is. It's clear that there's a lot that can be done on this front and on the whole sustainability front from business leaders. So just for anybody tuning into this that, may be a startup entrepreneur or a business leader that's running an SME that's entering sort of any phase, be it sort of late scale up or early scale up, what is your main sort of tip for business leaders to sort of really sort of help on the pathway to sustainability, because it is so important?
I would say be brave and be ambitious. As a business leader, you have a lot of influence, and I think that's the empowering thing about it. There's a lot you can do with the resources that you already have. As I said, through supply chains, you can influence your teams. You can lead your field by inspiring others, by raising awareness, by putting sustainability in the heart of every decision. You can help save the planet. You can help create a healthier world. Sir David Attenborough said, and I have this I use this quote every time: every breath of air we take, every mouthful of food that we eat depends upon a healthy natural world. And it takes all of us to create a healthy world and a healthy future. And I think business leaders have a position of power, and they can help us achieve that. So I think my main tip is just to go for it. Because yes, there are always risks that someone might criticize you for not being perfect, but the positive thing is that you can create a better world for everyone who lives in it, and have a greener, a leaner, more sustainable, more attractive business.
Exactly right. And thinking about sort of how we've talked about earlier, people's habits are changing and they're looking more toward greener businesses, and greener businesses are in a position to succeed in the long run. If you don't move with the times, then, you're going to suffer somewhere along the line. So it's incredibly important that business leaders are very, very acutely aware of the way the world's changing. And I suppose as you sort of help businesses navigate that transition yourself, Olga, I'd be wondering, just before we finish up on the show today, what some of your priorities are going to be over the next sort of, let's say, 12 months and beyond, as you sort of seek to help more individuals sort of, move with the times on this.
So I have my priorities, and sort of I'm launching next month, is training for company boards. So a lot of people who come to my training are sustainability professionals, or they have different roles in the organization, but they're often not the most senior people. I want to train people who are making the decisions. And what I said about having sustainability in the heart of every business decision, I feel like boards are extremely powerful. So I've designed a new course about that's specifically around governance. So where I cover climate change facts, I cover about how can board members help. I have templates for productive meetings about discussing climate change and risk. And I think that that's where I can make the most difference. Because then once they have this knowledge, and once they see how much they can achieve and how it doesn't have to cost everything, cost too much, I think they can then either do it in-house, hire somebody, or work with whoever, but I will know that I've done my bit and empowered them to make the right decisions. And I'll be donating 15% of all profits to the World Forest Organization as well. So I'll be helping in this way. I'm very excited about this project. I haven't actually started marketing it yet. I've just been busy writing it, making sure it's super relevant to the people who are in charge of governance. But yeah, wish you luck.
Yes, and we certainly wish you all the luck in the world in really executing that mission to the best possible effect, Olga. It's fantastic what you're looking to do, and hopefully, like I say, plenty more business leaders will come on board, and that project that you've got going on will prove to be a resounding success. And I'd love the opportunity to actually catch up and have you back on the show in future, maybe at some point in the next year or so, just to see how it's all coming along for you.
I would love to, and I really look forward to. I've listened to some podcasts that you have, and they've been so great. And I will go back and listen to more because I know a lot about sustainability and ethics and all of that. But in terms of actual marketing to boards, I think there's so much wisdom in your podcast. So I think I can learn a lot from that. So I'll make sure that if you can recommend any leaders that you spoke to who cover growth, I would be very interested to learn more.
Yeah, fantastic. There have been plenty of discussions that we've had recently on the programme covering things like growth marketing, but also sustainability as well, as we've discussed today. So, yeah, plenty of resources to be taken from that as well. And just for anybody listening into this particular programme as well, who might be affected or sort of empowered by the issues that we've discussed today, and you do want to talk to us about what we've spoken about, you can leave a comment or ask a question. That's via leaderscouncil.co.uk/contact-us, just so you know there. Or if you are the head of a business or organisation of your own and you wanted to bring your own perspective to the discussion table directly, then you too can apply to actually be on our programme via leaderscouncil.co.uk/apply. It's been my pleasure as your host, Scott Challoner, of course, to bring you a whole new episode of the Leaders Council podcast today. And it's been fantastic welcoming Olga Murray, founder of Private Goodness, onto today's show. Olga, thank you ever so much for your time on this and for joining us on the programme. We really are appreciative of that, and I'm sure the listeners have found it as eye-opening and as enlightening as I have. And by all means, do take care, and I'm sure we, as I said, we'll catch up on the programme in the very near future.
Thank you very much. It's been great chatting to you. And I would love to come back.
It's been fantastic. And to all of those listening into the programme, I've, of course, been your host, Scott Challoner, on today's episode of the Leaders Council podcast. And we'll be back next time for a whole new perspective on leadership and current affairs. But until then, do take care all, and goodbye.